Hey ladies and gentlemen of the internet, Adrian here for Digital Dojos. And today we're talking all about CES 2025 and some of the announcements that thus far have stuck out to me. So if you're unaware, CES, or the Consumer Electronics Show, is a conference that's hosted in Las Vegas. It kicked off, I believe, just recently this Sunday, and it's a platform for a lot of manufacturers, companies alike, to showcase their latest and greatest tech products, whether it is products that are about to hit the market in Q1, products that might come out later in the year, truthfully, products that may never see the light of day because they're concepts. It's a big PR platform for a lot of these companies to highlight cool and new tech. And as a tech enthusiast, this has always been one of my favorite events to kind of watch and see, because you kind of get a taste of products that are coming around the corner, or at least in the future. Again, hopefully. So with that, I thought I'd highlight some of my favorites that I've seen thus far and go through the list of some cool products from CES 2025. And I'm sure more will drop as the week progresses. So who knows? Maybe I should have done this at the end of the week. Nonetheless, let's dive in. So first and foremost, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the big talk of the town when it came to CES, and that was NVIDIA's 50 series announcement. The new Blackwell chips, the 5070, 5070 Ti, 5080, 5090. These are chips that are, the next line of NVIDIA's graphics card series, and it's all touting a lot new hardware and transistors and all that fun stuff from an engineering standpoint. A lot of this whole graphics card lineup in the new Blackwell chip is actually just a really small, tiny PCB. And honestly, at least in the Founder Edition card, just truthfully, like, major fans in cooling architecture around this. Very similar design to the Founder Edition card, some slight improvements like the angled power connector, so it's not a hassle or a fire hazard. And then obviously, yes, you're going to get astronomically better performance, at least from what NVIDIA is touting. And that's why I don't want to dive too much into the nitty-gritty technical here, because you got to take this with a grain of salt. These are performance metrics from NVIDIA. Obviously, these are going to paint it in the best light. And I will mention a lot of the stats they're showing for all the cards are using their newest DLSS technology, or DLSS 4, which uses AI to boost things like FPS, reduce latency, and improve image quality. And it allows their marketing team to do things like this and show, with DLSS off, you're getting 30 frames. With DLSS 4 on, you're getting 240 frames. So big difference, big number, better person sort of deal. But at the end of the day, I would want to wait for the Linus Tech Tips, Gamer Nexus, and YouTubers of the world to really dissect this, and once the embargoes lift, show true real-world performance as to how this compares to the previous 40 series, which a lot of people tend to use, and even NVIDIA uses to compare it. Because they're saying right now, at least for the 5070, it's going to be equivalent to the performance of a 4090, but at the $549 price point. And I'm looking at my 4090 that I easily spent nearly $2,000 on, and my heart hurts a little bit. But you can imagine, if you're somebody who just recently bought a 4090 and you're seeing stats like that, if that's true, then the 5070 is a good bang for buck in that case. Whereas the 5090 is going to come in a whopping $2,000, but supposedly is double the performance compared to the current 4090. Again, depending on how you look at it. Improve ray tracing, improve AI, and all this, upscale technology, a lot of, fancy buzzwords and marketing terms that, yes, your games are going to look better, they're going to perform better, but it also allows you to do things like AI Studio to make improvements for things like streaming and broadcasting. Again, I'd say take this with a grain of salt for now. I want to see when more numbers come out, but we do at least have a baseline. We have an idea of base performance and architecture, as well as price points as it stands. Pre-orders are supposed to kick off end of this month. Next up, I want to talk about TVs, because there are a lot of TVs that get announced at CES, and concept TVs and technology as a whole, and I want to highlight a couple that stuck out to me. So first and foremost, you have this Displace TV Pro. You'll probably see a lot of social media stuff about this. This is a TV that you can quite literally suction cup to the wall with their suction tech, and it's supposed to make TV mounting a breeze and easy and still be very secure. But at a $6,000 price point, it's pretty hefty. Again, this is supposed to be the Consumer Electronics Show, and yes, some consumers may buy this, but I would imagine not the average consumer. But apparently this is also completely wireless and powered by batteries, so the whole idea is this is very easy and portable to move around and relocate. And look, if the future is that with TVs, that's great. But at this price point, it's going to be a pretty steep one to pay at the time. LG's G5 OLED TV was announced. This is 40% brighter than their previous G4 from last year. This is cool because this is just a standard run-of-the-mill like consumer product that you will see very popular, the LG G5 or Gallery lineup. The LG C Series is the more common consumer lineup there. I'm a big fan of the C Series TVs. I have the C1, C2, C10. So good to see that these are getting their updates and yearly announcements. The Samsung S9 5F is one of the TVs being talked about because it's their glare-free technology. Apparently, this is a big update from the previous year's S9 5D. That what my understanding is, like, the idea behind this TV is it's for TVs that are going to be sitting in rooms with a lot of natural light. So living rooms, a lot of exposed windows. To get rid of a lot of that glare, they have a special technology that they've implemented on the display to kind of cancel that out. In last year's model, it resulted in some of the blacks looking a little bit more gray in color inaccuracy, but apparently, at least according to a lot of initial reports, the S9 5F TV models are always confusing. Major improvements, and under a lot of the bright conference lights, at least, looking much better. But again, we'll kind of have to wait to see how that actually plays out. Outside of that, you got the really crazy concept TVs like this LG transparent OLED, which is a whopping $60,000. And this was talked about last year, but they're featuring it again here in 2025 and make some improvements. Things like the Samsung transparent micro LED concept. These are just cool, like futuristic concepts. These aren't truly things that you're going to see in like your local Best Buy. I want to take a break from TVs, though, to talk about a monitor that LG announced that should be coming out, I imagine, hopefully soon in the 2025 year, is the LG Ultrafine lineup that they've updated. This is the Ultrafine lineup is actually a lineup that LG used to pair up with Apple on, and these were sold in Apple stores. I actually have one sitting here. I have one sitting back on that desk over there. It's a very popular TVs that were known and cooperated well with Macs because of their Thunderbolt support, and no exception here. 6K monitor, Thunderbolt 5 support, super sleek, bezel-less. But I gotta say, looks like a lot like an Apple Pro display or Apple Studio display. Supposed to come in at around $2,500. Again, support Thunderbolt 5, so that'll work with things like the latest MacBooks and the Mac Mini compatibility. But yeah, I mean, this looks great. Again, the LG doesn't even have a model number, I think, as far as I know right now. Nano IPS display, super color accurate with the Adobe RGB, 98% DCI P3 color gamut. So I imagine a lot of creatives, and I'm sure Apple users, will really fawn over a monitor like this. Roborock, the makers of the robotic vacuums, have came out with their couple of items, but one of the big talks of the conference is the Saros Z70. This is quite literally a robot vacuum that features a robotic mechanical arm that can come out and pick up objects in its path. They're calling it the Omni Grip, to pick up slippers and socks so that your robot can use AI to vacuum things in the floor around you and mop and things of that nature. Not gonna lie, actually pretty interesting whether it truly works in concept. I know a lot of people swear by their robot vacuums, so maybe something I'll have to check out. Withings, the maker of a lot of like health, smart home, kind of smart tech in general when it pertains to monitoring your health and fitness. I have a couple of their scales. Announced their Omnia, which is their 360 deep health scanning mirror. This is a concept product, and I want to be very clear. Supposedly, it's supposed to tie all of your health scores, your metrics. You step on the scale/mirror, it detects and knows who you are, shows things like your weight loss, BMI, blood pressure, cardio analysis, and really breaks it down and shows you all in the smart mirror. And again, that's why they're calling it 360 deep health screening, I guess is the phrase there. I said scanning earlier. This is a concept product. I'm imagining, going to talk to all of your Internet of Things and your other devices from Withings and your other devices on your phone or apps on your phone to kind of present all this data. And it looks interesting. And I will say, while it's a concept product, things like this kind of exist. I've seen products like this both on the consumer and enterprise side, integrated in healthcare clinics and things of that nature. So it's not too far-fetched to think Withings will actually come out with a product like that. Next up, a smart home product that I was interested in was the makers of locks and smart locks as a whole, Schlage or Schlage. I'm not 100% sure how you pronounce that. I believe they're a U.S.-based company and one of the kind of, premier lock makers out there as a whole. As they entered the smart home space, their newest smart lock lineup is the Sense Pro. This is supposed to use support for Matter, but more importantly, it's supposed to use an ultra wideband technology, or UWB, for hands-free unlocking. The concept here is you walk up to your door, it detects that it's you by your phone and app and things of that nature, and it can detect as you reach for the door, velocity, proximity, things of that nature, and unlock it before your thumb or finger gets on the door handle. No keys, all wireless. Now, whether or not in actuality that's going to be something that works well, is super secure, who knows? I think there's a lot of stuff to this, and more we're moving to, these different models of smart locks. I use in a car smart lock that I'm a big fan of, but it's quite literally a lock without a keyway, and that can either go really well or not so well. And I don't even think it's one that like hides the keyway. I guess I didn't read enough into that, but obviously you can see the back end where it can be not so great. and if it fails or your phone's dead, all these things kind of more points of failure, but when it works, could be very sleek and be a cool concept. Other technology announcements at CES 2025, HDMI 2.2 spec was announced. That's 4K at 480 hertz, up to 12K resolution at 120 hertz is going to be officially coming in 2025. They premiered some of the new cables that are going to be featuring this. This is a spec that it's cool to see. It's cool to see the capabilities in the future of things like HDMI and the bandwidth it's going to be able to carry. This is not something in actuality that we're going to see like truthfully rolled out for another couple of years, because specs like this have to roll it across the board. TVs have to support it. Consoles have to support it. Things like this, when they do roll out, will start off very expensive, but at the moment, 2.1 is still being very, widely adopted and starting to become a little bit more commonplace in current gen TVs. But as far as consumer product goes, this is going to be for the ultra high end and for the bleeding edge tech and stuff like that. Speaking of bleeding edge tech, Razer announced their Project Ariel gaming heating and cooling chair, complete with RGB, as you can see. This is I believe a concept tech. I hope this is a concept tech, but apparently it integrates bladeless fans in the base of the chair so that it can cool and give better breathability on top of its mesh design, and or heat you while you're gaming. And this is one of those gimmick techs, and this is one of the gimmick techs that you'll see at things like CES. Whether or not these will truthfully make it out into the wild, I'm very curious. But yeah, things like this were announced. AMD did their CPU line of announcements, more specifically the Fire Range and the Ryzen AI Max chips. A lot of these are their integrated mobile graphics chips. So you're going to see these in mobile devices, laptops. Primarily the one that stuck out is the AMD Z2, Z2 Go, and Z2 Extreme series, which is their kind of handheld mobile chips that got big improvements. AMD has been killing it in the CPU space for the last couple of years compared to Intel. But specifically with these Z2 chips, apparently these are going to be the ones that they're partnering with Valve. And my only suspicion there could be the future Steam Deck upgrade. So yeah, you see the kind of performance you're getting, cores, threads, all that good stuff across AMD's latest line. Still no words on their GPU yet. A lot of people are touting that they were waiting for NVIDIA to do their big event so they can know where to apparently price things. But at least when it comes to CPUs, we do see their latest chipsets, and you'll see their new kind of naming nomenclature there. Other smart home tech that was announced, the Circular Ring 2. This is something that I was interested in. I'm currently wearing my Oura smart ring, and this is supposedly one of the big competitors. The two things that apparently the Circular Ring 2 does that a lot or none of the smart rings do out there is this is certified for ECG readings, FDA cleared for atrial fibrillation or AFib, so it can help you detect things with your heart and be a big advocate for that. You're seeing a lot of this with things like Apple Watches and other smart home tech that can hopefully alert you of emergencies or when things aren't something might be awry when it comes to your your sensors and the calculations you can make based off of that, especially when it comes to the heart if something's like irregular or something of that nature. Again, this is only getting better and better. It's cool to see this on everyday tech, whether it's like AirPods with the hearing aid capabilities and things of that nature. The more this gets approved and integrated in everyday tech, I think the better overall. The other thing that Circular Ring 2 does is apparently it allows you to adjust your sizing and find your sizing digitally, which is a big thing that a lot of other rings require you to get like physical sizing kits for. But yeah, Circular 2, if you're interested in that whole space. And then lastly, a couple things to wrap up here. Ugreen announced their first ever, and I think actually the first ever, 500 watt USB-C charger. So for you like charging, gearheads out there, Ugreen, very well known alongside like Anker for their charging accessories, is going to handle a pretty hefty charging workload. This at 500 watts features 5 USB-C ports and a USB-A port. I believe these are at, USB-C ports here are at, one of them is at 240 watts, where the rest are at 100 watts, and then the USB-A port is at 20 watts. So if you want something to really power all your things on the go and when you travel, Ugreen's going to have you covered here in the future. Last but not least, some interesting semi-adjacent gaming news that I thought was interesting. Sony had some announcements, in particular around TV shows and animes. First off, Ghost of Tsushima, one of my favorite games of all time, is getting an anime series officially announced that's in collaboration with Crunchyroll and Aniplex, I believe. And then there's other popular series, like I believe Helldivers is getting a movie, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And what was the other one? There was another major one that was announced. Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn, Helldivers are apparently getting their own movies alongside Ghost of Tsushima getting its anime. So there's that. So gamers can rejoice, I guess, a little bit if you want to see those turned into potential movies or anime, and hopefully those go well. These are something that they're just announcing now, so I can only imagine does not come out for quite a while. I'm trying to see if they had a date published here, at least on Crunchyroll. Yeah, the anime will exclusively premiere in 2027. So long ways away, but announcement to kind of hype you up there. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot to talk about, and it's only been a couple of days. I'm sure in the next couple of days we'll see even more stuff announced at CES that might blow some of this stuff even out of the water. But to kind of summarize a lot of what I've been seeing, at least, it's no surprise. AI is the talk of the town when it comes to CES this year, for good reason. NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, the CEO, he really hit on the idea of AI is still in its infancy and how AI is going to develop physically in the forms of AI that will develop along the way, and how NVIDIA is trying to be a big part of that with their chips and their hardware. You see a lot of these TV manufacturers using AI as their selling point. And here's the thing. There's a lot of great practical uses for things like language learning models and ChatGPT and AI being integrated in everyday tech that will make hopefully life easier and the tech experience that you have better. But there's also a lot of people just slapping AI on their latest TV or model or product to kind of just have that buzzword attached to it, where really it's just your typical run-of-the-mill like voice assistant stuff or things of that nature. So expect a lot of that as well. Even companies like Delta are apparently doing like a new onboarding process through their app or like virtual assistant with AI. So again, take it with a grain of salt. I'm sure there'll be better implementations and actually legitimate implementations, but there's some products that are just going to kind of slap it on there for the sake of slapping it on there. Nonetheless, I'm excited to see what more comes out of CES. These are just some of my favorite products thus far. Leave down below in the comments your thoughts on some of these. What are your favorite things that you've seen announced, or what are some of the things that you're looking forward to, whether it's the world of laptops or cameras or TVs? Drop it down in the comments below. These are fun for me. I used to miss covering tech news and as a whole, and I don't get to do this as much anymore. So if you're interested, subscribe, and potentially we can do some more things like this in the future. And as always, thanks for watching.